Okay, so we're going to talk about writing equations of hyperbolas in standard form, and I think it's just easiest to show you the examples so that you understand what we're going to do. Okay, so these are equations of hyperbolas, but they're not in standard form, and we can get them into standard form by completing the square. Now, I want to make one thing clear. This is harder than completing the square with ellipses, and I'll tell you why. It's because of this minus sign here. The fact that you have these minus signs in front of the squared term actually kind of screws everything up. So I'm going to show you how to kind of work through all that. The other thing I want to point out before I go into this is that you can tell very easily, if you know the code, that these are hyperbolas because you've got this squared term minus this other squared term. This squared term minus that other squared term. It's really important just to notice those connections as we kind of go through all this. Okay, so let's jump into this example and I'm going to show you how to complete the square here. So here's the part that screws everybody up. This minus sign, ugh. Okay, so we want to be really careful with this. We want to actually factor out, I'm actually going to write a -1 here so that we don't forget what this stands for. I want to factor that out. And I guess the other thing I want to point out is we've got the constant on one side. That's ideally what we would like. This minus, if you don't factor this out, completing the square is going to be really tough. It's going to kind of suck. Okay, once we get that, now we can start completing the square. So complete the square here. My b is equal to -6. My half b is equal to -3. And my half b squared equals 9. And then here, my b is equal to -4. My half b is equal to -2, and my half b squared equals 4. Okay, so I just want to point out, there's just so many issues if you don't factor out this -1. Like if you've been trying this on your own, you kept making errors, you're getting the wrong b, and then also you're gonna notice in a second, you're also probably adding in the wrong constant. Okay, so we know that the next thing that we need to do with this is I take x squared minus 6x and I add in that 9, right? And then I've still got this -1 out in front. I've got y squared minus 4y plus 4. All that equals 1. Now we have to keep the equation in balance. So I'm going to add this 9 to this side, but then also this 4, I have to bounce it off the number that's in front of the set of parentheses. So you might remember doing this with ellipses as well. So what that means is that on this side, I'm actually subtracting 4. Bum, bum, bum. So that's a little tricky, I think, actually. And that's how you keep this equation, that's how you complete the square with this. It's like this minus sign kind of really screws everything up. All right, so anyways, so now I can finish factoring. I'm going to drop the -1 now. And so this equals 6, right? Cool. And so now I can divide everything by 6 because this needs to be a 1, right? Oops, what am I doing? Divided by 6, divided by 6. And I'll just write the answer over here, answer. So this is x minus 3 squared over 6 minus y minus 2 squared over 6. All of that equals 1. Okay, so like I said, I think that's a little tricky just because of that minus sign. So I want to encourage you to try this one on your own and then hit play when you're ready. Okay, so I am going to factor out that 1 so that I properly flip all my signs. And then as far as completing the square goes, it's actually the same thing. So right, this and this have the same b. So I can go ahead and do this. So my b is going to equal -14. My half b is going to equal -7. And my half b squared equals 49. I will just write here that my half b squared here will still equal 49 since they both have the same number here, right? Okay, but think about what happens when we bring that in. So this is where this gets important. Y squared minus 14y plus 49. And then I've got this x squared minus 14x plus 49. So what happens on the other side? I've got 16 plus 49, and then I have to bounce this 49 off of that negative 1, right? So actually the 49s cancel themselves out. And so if I factor all this, I'm just going to show you what the final answer is here. So if you work on the factoring and then divide everything so that it equals 1, this is the final form of that equation. So yeah, that minus sign is actually a lot trickier than you might think. Okay, so hopefully that was helpful, and I will talk to you guys in another video.